Hi, everybody. Sorry
Hello,
for the late
everybody.
start. We got a little distracted, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yes.
I'm doing laundry, and Isaac's building a new walkway for his house. So you know how
Yes.
that goes. It can get time can get away from you. So, welcome to Mastering Mental Wellness,
Yep.
and today we're going to talk about the stressors when you are taking care of a parent or family
Hmm.
member who has dementia. And
Yes.
I wish I had known then what I know now about taking care of a parent with dementia. I think it would have
Hmm.
made it a lot easier on all of us taking care of my mom if we would have understood it a little better.
Hmm.
Um, because it can definitely try your patience, to
Hmm.
say the
Hmm.
least.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you take it away and then I'll fill in. Well, first, let's say we got Bora Bora is here.
Yes.
Uh, First one through the door.
Uh-huh.
And we've got um, Bora Bora is here. We got Isaac
Yeah.
is here. More people to
Yeah.
show up. So
And
just
she's
takes them a
wishing
minute.
everybody a
Marina's here. So,
and she's wishing
all
everybody a
right.
happy birthday in
Yes.
September. I just wish somebody a late happy birthday. So
I
that's
think
that's that's something.
my brother had a
Synchronicity.
birthday in September.
Really?
I think there was a couple of other, yeah, Linda G had a birthday, and Angela from Cardamancy Mesquite, she had a birthday.
Okay.
So there were several birthdays in September.
Hmm.
I don't know. Everything's written on the calendar. If it's not written down, I don't remember it.
Yeah. Hi,
And even
Maureen.
then, I'll forget if I forget to look at the calendar. I'll forget that there's a birthday.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
but yeah, I
Okay.
like to try to wish everybody happy birthday. It makes them feel good.
Okay. Well,
As
this is something that I had to do a little research about, but when I started reading it, I think it's a lot of the things that we know until we're in it, and then we forget it. Uh, the one of the big things was like the tips for caretakers, for caregivers, and
I've
really
got
it's the
that
stuff that
set up, we can show that on screen as well as
okay.
the video whenever
Hmm.
you're ready. Um,
Okay, that's fine, and I'll just keep talking because I think the big thing is that we talk about self-care all the time, and I and when we practice self-care, we're more clear-headed and we're more grounded, and we're more realistic because I think when we're caring for someone who's ill, we want them to get better, and we think that they're going to get better no matter what the doctor tell us. We're
mhm,
caring for that person from a perspective that if I work hard enough, if I do all the right things, it's going to get better. And I
right.
think that that's where we can get burnout. And that's the big thing that we're trying to avoid is not getting burnout, but being compassionate to the person. And
Yes.
I guess, it's a lesson in patience too, learning
Oh God,
to
yes.
learning compassion because I knew someone who was I guess in the early stages of dementia. And every time I said I was from Mississippi, he would just say, we just used to call it sippy. And he would say the same thing every time. And I'm thinking that made him feel comfortable that he was having a conversation about
Right.
something that's familiar. And
Yes.
it really didn't bother me, I guess, because I do counseling all the time. And my girlfriend at the time, she said, uh, stop saying Mississippi. And I said, he's tricking me. Because see, I was like having the conversation, just a normal conversation. And it was somebody that we knew well. I knew well. And but it I think for some people that's frustrating because they want the conversation to move on. But when we
Yeah. Yeah.
understand that the person is just that makes them feel more comfortable, maybe we can be more open to
And
what's
the
going on.
the constant repetitiveness of saying things
Yes.
over and over and over again, you know,
Mhm.
uh, retelling something that they just told you 5 minutes before.
Mhm.
Um, I know with my mother,
Mhm.
she had what they called cerebral dementia. Her
Mhm.
brain was literally shriveling up in her skull.
Mhm.
And as it shriveled, more and more things got cut off that she was
Uh-huh.
able to deal with.
Mhm.
And because she would like kind of cruise along at a certain level, and then
Mhm.
boom, she'd have a drop off, and she would
Uh-huh.
lose several functions, and then she'd cruise along at a level, and then boom, she'd had another drop off,
Mhm.
and it would happen literally day to day.
Mhm.
It was like on Monday, you could hand her a tissue and say, "Mama, blow your nose,"
Mhm.
and it was no problem. And on Tuesday, you could hand her a tissue and say, "Mama, blow your nose," and she couldn't do it.
Mhm.
She could not remember how to do it. She
Mhm.
didn't know how to she didn't know how to blow through her nose.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, it was frustrating for me, and I would get really irritated with her.
Mhm.
Actually, kind of angry at her a couple of times because I thought she was
Mhm.
just messing with me. And it
Mhm.
took a little bit before I realized she honestly can't remember
Mhm.
how to blow her nose. So I had to go to the store and buy a one of those
The
squeegee
suctions for
things
the
that
back.
you use on
Mhm.
babies, you know.
Mhm.
Thank you, sweetheart. And to to be able
Mhm.
uh to be able to show her, or to be able to,
Mhm.
you know, get the stuff out of her nose. And then
Mhm.
she would fight you just like a baby fights you.
Uh-huh.
And it would be and hi Mary, I think a lot of people also don't realize, I know I didn't until after the fact,
Mhm.
of how uh trying to think of a nice way to put it, of how secretive they are,
Mhm. Mhm.
because in the beginning they know they're losing
Mhm.
sense of things, and they
Mhm.
don't want anybody to know. It's
Right.
like an embarrassment. It literally got to a point where we had to hide all the scissors in the house,
Mhm.
which was not easy because my mother was a seamstress as well as a quilter. We had
Mhm.
freaking scissors everywhere, every size,
Mhm.
shape, and type of scissors we had. And it
Mhm.
took a while to find all the scissors because she would start cutting things up.
Uh-huh.
She'd start cutting up her clothes and cutting up her drapes, and then like trying to tape them back together. And
Mhm.
she went
Mhm.
through a phase where
Mhm.
she was convinced that there were people standing outside in the middle of the rose bush looking in the bedroom window at her.
Mhm.
And it'd be like, Mama, nobody can get to the bedroom window. There's a huge
Mhm.
rose bush right there, you know, right
Mhm.
in front. And
Mhm.
but in her head there was people looking at her from outside.
Mhm.
You could
Mhm.
take her and walk her outside and show her nobody's out here,
Right.
and she'd be fine until she got back in the house, and then there was somebody looking at her in the window.
Mhm.
And on
Yeah.
and on and on it went, you know.
Mhm.
It I think the hardest part was
Mhm.
the first time she looked at me. It was like, who are you?
Mhm.
She didn't know I was her daughter, you know. And
Mhm.
that was
Mhm.
difficult. That was
Right.
probably one of the most difficult days, when she
Mhm.
looked at me and said, who are you? Who are you again?
Mhm.
You know, I don't think
Right.
I've met you. And she would
Right.
talk to me and say, I want to talk to my daughter, Sherry. And I'd say, well, Mom, I'm right here.
Wow.
Not you. I want to talk to my daughter. I'd say, okay, Mom. And I'd get up and I'd leave the room, and then I'd come back in like a minute later and say, okay, Mama, what you want? And then I was Sherry. But
Wow.
before I wasn't, you know, that kind
Mhm.
of thing, you know, that would really, in the beginning really kind of threw me off. And she was very
Right.
good at hiding how bad the symptoms were to her
Mhm.
doctor when she would go in for
Right.
regular checkups.
Mhm.
It got to where I had to start going in the doctor's office with her, like
Mhm.
going in the exam room with her to
Mhm.
tell him what was happening, because
Right.
he thought that she was doing okay, no problems, because she was
Right.
able to hide it for the,
Mhm.
5-10 minutes she sat in the room with him.
Right.
And but she would see and hear people
Mhm.
that she would swear was in the room and talk
Right.
to them, have a complete conversation. And
Mhm.
I know we used to laugh about, well, is she seeing ghosts, or is she just
Mhm.
really seeing in her mind this person sitting there?
Mhm.
I never did
Mhm.
know which one it was, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's a hard thing to deal with,
Mhm.
uh,
Well,
because
one thing, Sherry, it's hard
they don't
because you don't
understand.
have any information. You don't have any information. It's like the first time you're doing this, and you can't do it
Right,
perfectly. Nothing. We can do it
right.
nothing perfectly. But the first time you're doing this with no information,
It was very hard, when she
yeah.
lost the ability to go to the bathroom by herself,
Mhm.
and just whenever she had to pee or poo, she relieved herself in the spot, like a baby would.
Right.
And we
Mhm.
had to switch to the pull-ups and then to the diapers,
Mhm. Mhm.
and or when it got to the stage where, we got to the point where we were having to bathe her. She couldn't bathe
Mhm.
herself.
Mhm.
And then it got to the point where it was a fight to bathe her.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
didn't want to get in the bathtub because she
Mhm.
didn't know who this person was trying to see
Mhm.
her naked, in the tub, and she would
Right.
fight you. And
Right.
all kind. I mean, I guess some of the first steps of showing how bad it was getting was when she would try to make herself coffee, and she would either forget to put the water in, or she
Mhm.
would put the water in and no coffee in the
Mhm.
coffee part, or she would
Mhm.
forget to put the pot underneath, and then it would, of
Mhm.
course, overflow all over the countertop, and
Mhm.
she would flip out without, I mean, totally flip out. And
Mhm.
hi, Sharon. Um, so yeah, it can really be difficult trying to deal with that, and
Right.
then
Right.
the fact that
Well,
that's your parent who always took
mhm.
care of you,
Right.
and now suddenly they can't take care of themselves. I think that's
Uh-huh.
the hard part.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, Sherry, you need to be validated. Well, I will validate you for taking care of your mom because that's a big undertaking, and a lot of people don't
y-
realize how much is involved.
yeah, you don't realize how much of your own life you put on hold when you're doing
Mhm.
that. Um,
Well,
Everything from
Sherry,
being able to
some
watch a
people.
TV show to
Right.
going out. I mean,
Mhm.
I was lucky. My brother lived here in town. My son was here,
Mhm.
and we just
Mhm.
all moved in together and would
Mhm.
kind of tag team it. When
Right. Right.
one person's frustration level would kind of hit the peak, so there was
Mhm.
somebody in there to go and relieve them and say, "Okay, go step out." But
That was smart. That was
my
smart.
brother was the one that would have to literally force me out the door
Mhm.
to, "You need to go take a break. Go to the
Right.
movies, go to the park, go do something, but get out of here."
Right.
And
Right.
um, and it was hard because then I felt guilty because I wasn't there to take
Mhm.
care of her. So
Mhm. Mhm.
you put yourself in that vicious circle of that, and
Yeah. Well,
so
there's so
yeah,
much a
that can.
person doesn't understand. There's so much you don't understand.
Oh
We
yeah, oh yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, and they fight you. I mean, it's everybody knows what a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old is like when they
Mhm.
fight you with everything that you're trying to do. But it's a
Mhm.
little kid, you can handle it. You're dealing with a grown adult who's now fighting
Right.
you like a 1-year-old
Mhm.
will, and it's
Right.
very different, because now you've
Mhm.
got a full-size person you're trying to
Right.
control in
Mhm.
a sense.
Mhm.
It can make it really, really difficult.
Mhm.
Um, it is a labor of love, Mary. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And psychologically, though, Sherry, think about it. It's like your mind is trying to make sense out of it because you think this person knows better, but then you know that they don't.
right,
You know what I mean? So your mind is trying to make sense out of it.
right. And the fact that my mother was a single parent who raised 2 kids by herself,
Mhm.
was very self-sufficient, very much in charge, in control. You march to her step. I mean, not like
Uh-huh.
in a mean way, just
Mhm.
she had her shit together, no problem.
Right.
And then to see them lose that,
Mhm.
it's really disheartening, and
Yeah. Mhm.
I know it got to where I get mad at myself now when I think back about it, and then I think, no, idiot, you didn't know any better. But it got to where I
Mhm.
didn't want to take her with me anywhere because
Mhm.
if I had to just run up to the store and grab something, it took
Mhm.
me 10 minutes. If she came with me, it was an hour. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
just the battle of getting in and out of the car and putting on the seatbelt and
Right.
um, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. And
Mhm.
yeah, it makes it difficult. It really
Mhm.
does. I feel for anybody that's having to take care of
Mhm.
a parent or an
Mhm.
elderly relative. It
Mhm.
doesn't even have to be a parent that's going
Right.
through it.
Right. And
And
people in facilities, they're often given education and they have support, they're on shifts, so they're trained in doing this, but when you're trying to do it
exactly.
at home, you need a lot of information and a lot of support.
Right, exactly. 3 months before she passed, she had a major seizure, and we
Mhm.
had to call emergency, the
Mhm.
ambulance, and they took her to the hospital, and
Mhm.
I think it was, like, the 2nd day there, and, we were talking to the doctor, "Well, how long do you think she'll be in? When can we bring her home?" And the
Mhm.
doctor was like, "She will never go back home. She'll never go
Really?
back home. She's gonna have to go into a hospice unit in lockdown because
Mhm.
when she had that last major seizure, she lost the ability to talk. She lost the ability to
Okay.
walk. She couldn't
Mhm.
feed herself anymore.
Mhm.
She would eat if you fed her, but she
Mhm.
couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
And that was a cross between being a godsend of having her somewhere where professionals took care of her
Mhm.
24/7
Mhm.
and guilt of feeling like you're shucking your duties because you're not taking care
Mhm.
of her, you know?
Right. Right.
And, I remember I said that to one of her nurses one day when I had gone to see her and she was asleep. I was like, "No, no, don't
Mhm.
wake her up. Let her sleep. I'll just hang for a little
Mhm.
while, and it
Mhm.
she won't know if I'm here or not anyway, so, it's
Mhm.
not gonna make a difference."
Mhm.
And, and I just sat and talked with one of her nurses,
Mhm.
and she was explaining a lot of that. She says, "I see the guilt y'all carry when you come in." She said, "There's no
Mhm.
need to feel guilty." She says, "You've actually
Mhm.
done the right thing," because now she has professional care 24/7.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, that can make a huge difference in their well-being, I guess, towards the end.
Right. Right. Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
people are trained.
Maureen, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
You see what Maureen put in there? Uh,
Yes, and see that's what we're talking about, the self-care. Because if
yeah,
if you are practicing self-care, and it's hard, and believe me, it's hard, but if you are practicing self-care, you will know when it's time to seek help or seek
yeah,
seek placement in a facility. And sometimes we don't if we don't do the self-care, we're so busy taking care of the person, we
yeah.
can't think of all that stuff. And see, these are tough things to think about, but we have to think about.
Right, exactly. And
Mhm.
I think we all got a taste of what it was gonna be like, what it was like to have to actually care for somebody. And then, of course,
Mhm.
I'm 63 now. My brother's what, 57. 57. He's
Mhm.
6 years younger than me. So it's like makes us step back and take stock of, okay, what if I wind up being like that too?
Right.
Am I going to have to sit and rely? It's like to think about, is my son going to have to wipe my ass for me because I can't do it, and bathe me
Mhm.
and stuff? It's
Mhm.
almost humiliating in a sense. So I can
Mhm.
understand why she would fight us,
Right.
because there was a part of her, I think, that knew
Mhm.
that it was something she should have been able to do herself. Uh,
Mhm.
and so that it's I know she went through a
Mhm.
phase where she was very combative, with
Mhm.
like angry all the time, like her personality changed. My mother was never an
Mhm.
angry woman, never a
Mhm.
combative woman. Now, don't get me wrong, she could get in your face and give you what for at the drop of a hat if you push the wrong button. But generally speaking, she was a very
Mhm.
happy, friendly, lovely,
Mhm.
loving person. That was just her
Mhm.
personality. And it literally, where we lived at the time, at one point the manager had to come over to the apartment to talk to us, because she was like, she's walking around outside and she'll find a big stick and she'll walk around and threaten people with it. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
And people were complaining to the office. And I said, nobody came and said anything to us.
Mhm.
Nobody said anything. If somebody would have said something
Mhm.
2 months ago when this started, we could have nipped
Mhm.
it in the bud, instead of
Right.
waiting till it got to the point the office had to come talk to us.
Right.
And even they were kind of like being really pissy about it.
Mhm.
And I had to explain to the woman, look, she's got dementia.
Mm.
She
Mhm.
doesn't remember any of these people, even though she
Mhm.
knew everybody. She didn't
Mhm.
remember anybody.
Right.
There was a couple of retired nuns that lived a couple of apartments down, who were both nurses, retired
Mhm.
nurses as well. And I saw them spend a lot of time with neighbors,
Mhm.
explaining to them what was going on and how to handle, if Miss Sharon comes walking by and she's in that mood,
Mhm.
don't even approach her, just go the other way.
Mhm.
And I was very grateful for that, because
Mhm.
they didn't have to do that, but that's just the way they
Right.
were.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it
Well,
was it
being
really
nurses, they probably understood better. It's like
exactly.
It's like you could when you're in a profession like that, you can some people are just natural in those roles, but you can learn more about it or you can get frustrated with it. And it's always better just to
Yeah,
learn more about anything you're involved in because it's not going to go away.
right.
Mhm.
Exactly. Um, I think about I guess about 2 weeks before she had that last seizure,
Mhm.
she had started having these crying spells where
Mhm.
she would just sit and cry all day. She didn't know why she cried,
Mhm.
didn't know why she was upset.
Mhm.
And of course, it would kill me because I couldn't make her feel better.
Right. Mhm.
And I finally got her to lay down on the sofa next to me. I was sitting in the living room, and take a little nap. And when she woke up a little bit later, still crying, still sad.
Mhm.
And I went and sat next to her, trying, like, I don't know what to do to
Mhm.
make you feel better. And it was like suddenly her head came up and she turned and looked at me. And that was my mother from before.
Mm.
And she just looked at me. She said, I don't want to be like this anymore. And then she was gone.
Oh,
It was that fast. It was
wow.
that fast. And I
Mhm.
knew in that moment that somewhere deep inside that brain of hers,
Mhm.
she was aware of what was happening to her.
Uh-huh.
And she
Mhm.
did not like it. Because I used to
Right.
wonder, is she even conscious of the fact of what's happening to
Mhm.
her
Mhm.
in some
Mhm.
variation, you know? And that moment let me know she's fully cognizant of what's going on.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
just she's just locked up inside that brain and can't
Right.
get out. and can't
Right.
express.
Uh-huh.
And that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to deal with.
Mhm.
And was just that 10 seconds of the one simple statement,
Right.
because when she looked at me, it was like that wasn't my mother as I knew her sick. That was my
Mhm.
mother before she got dementia.
Uh-huh.
That
Mhm.
look, her eyes, the way she
Mhm.
looked at me, it was
Mhm.
like she was back 100%. Boom. And
Mhm.
because it was shocking, it kind of took me, kind of set me back when she
Yeah.
looked at me before she even said anything. Because it was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Mhm.
This is Sharon looking at me. This is not this,
Mhm.
woman who doesn't know who anybody is. And
Mhm.
so it can be
Yeah. That would have to be frustrating for a person to realize that I know I can do better, but I can't, but nothing is working anymore. That would be very frustrating.
in the beginning, she would get upset because she would forget things.
Mhm.
Excuse me, my allergies have been cutting up all weekend. Uh,
Mhm.
and we would, make fun, not of her, but, try to make a joke out of it and calling it her Swiss cheese memory. You
Mhm.
just never know where the holes were. I mean, she'd start
Mhm.
talking about something and then it would be gone.
Mhm.
And now it's like when I do that, I freak out. Just normal stuff because it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Mhm.
So, but I've always been forgetful, so that's just normal for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's
Wow.
I know the stuff you sent.
Mhm.
There was some really good. Let me see if I can get this.
Mhm.
Well,
Is
I
on
had
all
the,
alzheimers.gov. There's so much information out there. We just
and I don't think a lot of people realize that Alzheimer's and dementia are the same but different.
yeah, yeah. It's a
Um,
version of dementia.
yeah, it's Alzheimer's is more of a medical thing, from what I
Mhm.
understand, like
Mhm.
chemical type imbalances
Mhm.
and whatnot,
Mhm.
whereas dementia is more of a cerebral type thing,
Mhm.
stuff happening to your brain. Uh,
Mhm.
in her case, her brain was shriveling up.
Mhm.
But it, um, hi Kiba, hi T Lynn. But I wish I would have known then what I've learned since.
Mhm.
I think it would have made things a lot easier for all of us
Mhm.
as we went along. Um,
Mhm. I still think you handled it well. I think that's any experience that we go into not knowing, we just don't have any information. But that's a human thing. We want to know. We want to know as much as we can about something when we go into it.
right.
But you navigated it well. And that's any situation that we come into, the whole point is we navigate it the best that we can. That's what I believe now. I didn't always believe that. I always wanted it to change, but it's like we
Yeah.
navigate it the best we can.
Well, and that's where it's different for me because then I was obsessed with not feeling like I was taking care of her properly. To
Right.
know now that I was doing the best I was capable of doing with the
Right.
knowledge I had to work with,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the fact that I was still working full time, so it was,
Yeah.
I went for like a 2-year period where thankfully my bosses understood what was going on. In
Mhm.
fact, one of them was doing intensive research on Alzheimer's at the time.
Wow. Mhm.
And I would get a phone call, it would literally have to drop whatever I was doing and rush home.
Mhm.
No questions asked, and my
Mhm.
son was the one that stayed home with her during the day. And like he said, since then, he's like, I just didn't have the personality to take care of somebody. Like,
Mhm.
it's like he
Mhm.
didn't realize how
Mhm. Mhm.
how much that kind of burden will change a person when
Right.
you don't know what you're doing and you don't
Right.
understand it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was a learning curve for all of us. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would have been really helpful that when they first determined what was wrong with her,
Mm-hmm.
if the doctors would have sat us down and said, okay, this is what's happening. This is why it's happening. This
Mm-hmm.
is how it's going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Right.
it would have made things easier, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you feel very alone. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whether if it's somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's or with another serious disease that's, say,
Mm-hmm.
maybe bedridden or something, you feel very isolated from the outside world.
Right.
Like nobody else
Mm-hmm.
knows what I'm going through. You know, this I'm going
Mm-hmm.
through this by myself. And when
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of people that know what you're going through. They just don't say anything either. So
Right. Right. But you know one
yeah,
thing, Sherry, I think there's a disconnect from, like, say if there's a doctor who has diagnosed that all the time and he's told families over and over what to do. What we do as human beings, we think, well, I've already said it, they should know. We don't think
right.
about that it's new people coming every time, or day after day. We don't think about that. Some people can get frustrated because they're explaining the same thing over and over, but it's just a part of what you have to do.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna put this up
Hmm.
so we can kind of scroll through it here.
Hmm.
Um, just some simple tips
Hmm.
that were listed on this website. Let me see if I can make it a
Hmm.
little bigger so y'all can see it.
Hmm.
Uh, keeping a
Maureen,
routine. Yeah.
Maureen has a question. Uh, about how do you know if your parents are just forgetful or in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's or dementia? I'm not sure how to answer that, but I'm sure that there are like assessments that,
Yeah, I think that's more of a medical determination. Um,
okay. Hmm.
I would think because I mean, I mean, she was evidently dealing with it for a while before even we were aware of it. Because, like I said,
Hmm.
she hid it. She
Hmm.
hid it from everybody.
Oh, okay. Okay. So she couldn't get
And
assessed.
and she
Hmm.
didn't say, "Hey, I'm forgetting stuff," or what. It just in the
Hmm.
beginning, it was an excuse. "Oh, I'm just tired tonight. Just ignore me," kind of thing. And
Hmm.
it took a while before we realized, no, this isn't just you being tired. Something's wrong,
Right.
you know.
Uh-huh.
And then to get her to the doctor to figure out what it is, what's wrong with you.
Hmm.
And hey,
Hmm.
Clarence. Um, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I put this up in a document, y'all, on a PDF, and I'm gonna try to go in and add that after the show. It's like these are some just general tips
Hmm.
of how to care for someone. Um,
Hmm.
and then there's changes in the communication and behavior of people with
Hmm.
dementia. Oh God, yes.
Hmm.
It's really hard when you're tired and frustrated and
Hmm.
you lose your temper with them. Because it makes
Hmm.
them feel worse than you feel like a heel because you know they
Hmm.
can't help what they're doing. You know, you get in this
Hmm.
vicious kind of circle there.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's some good tips there on just how to communicate better. There was a section tips for a healthy and active lifestyle,
Hmm.
um, and I would say that that was probably one of the saving graces for us because Mama always liked to get out and walk around anyway.
Hmm.
So it wasn't difficult to get her to get out and let's go walk, you know.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
and even when it got to where she couldn't just walk on her own anymore, you know, first we got her a cane and then that didn't do any good. And then we got uh, I think it was one of the hospice foundations here in town donated a walker, the
Mhm.
little 3-prong thing that you
Mhm.
put in front of you as you go.
Mhm.
And then eventually we had to get a wheelchair because
Mhm.
she could barely walk across the room
Okay.
to uh to not being able to get out of the chair at all unless somebody picked her up and moved her out. Um,
Wow.
and so it was just and I think that was the hard part because she would kind of cruise along, like I said, and then she'd have a drop off. And it
Mhm.
would usually happen like she would go to bed at night at level 1 and she'd
Mhm.
wake up in the morning at level 2.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't take long before she realized that she was losing stuff whenever she would go to sleep. And so then we had the problem of trying to get her to go to bed and go to sleep because she was terrified to go to bed because of what she wouldn't remember the next day, kind of thing. That became an issue that
Mhm.
really got difficult to handle. Um,
Right.
but there are some really good tips in this, and y'all, I'm going to post this up
Mhm.
um, to the description box.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, home safety.
Mhm.
I mean, we had to
And
have the handles in the bathtub
mhm.
installed. Uh, we had to get a bath chair. We had to. Uh, I know she walked into the corner of a upper cabinet
Mhm.
one day, and it looked like somebody had done 10 rounds on her face. I mean, her whole
Wow.
face bruised up just because she hit by her
Mhm.
eye.
Wow.
One day she tripped and was falling, and where she was falling, she would have really hurt herself had she hit the ground.
Mhm.
And my son reached out and grabbed her to grab her arm to keep her from falling. And when he did, he caught her like her hand here, and it
Mhm.
just kind of went through, and the skin on the back of her hands just peeled right off like an
Oh,
onion.
wow.
I get a phone call from my son, hysterical. You gotta come home now. There's blood everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God. I get home. There was literally blood everywhere. And he couldn't
Wow.
get her to put her hand down in the sink to try to stop the blood. I mean, he was
Yeah.
covered in blood. She was covered in blood. There was blood
Wow.
all over the kitchen. And it was like, a murder scene almost. And we
Mhm.
had to, it took a while to get everyone calm and to get her to put her hand in the sink so I
Mhm.
could look at it, and
Mhm.
and it was like the skin just like peeled back and then flapped over. So I was
Mhm.
able to put it back up over her hand,
Ooh.
but I
Mhm.
had to put like I think it took like 2 tubes of Neosporin cream on it,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then wrapped it. And at first, she wanted to fight me with wrapping it. I was like, "No, Mama,
Mhm.
it's gonna make it feel better because it was painful." So she was upset because it was
Mhm.
hurting. And
Yeah.
we're trying to make it better, you're gonna make it hurt more. And
Right.
but uh I know it wasn't long after that, 'cause she was still wearing the bandage on her hands
Mhm.
when she had the seizure and went into the hospital. And I had 3 different nurses tell me, "Well, y'all did an excellent field bandaging on
Mhm.
her hand. I have to give
Mhm.
you credit." I said, "I just
Mhm.
wrapped it until it looked like it wasn't gonna bleed through, I didn't know what I was
Mhm.
doing." But, so there are things, yeah,
Mhm.
make sure, like with a baby, you gotta make sure
Mhm.
security locks. We had
Right.
to put se we wound up having to put security locks on the door up
Mhm.
high so she couldn't reach and get out.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh,
Wow. Y
there
you
was
you you posted the, link as well, didn't you, share?
yes, the link is in I think I put it in yeah,
I know
at
I
the
saw it.
at the very top of the chat. I
Uh-huh.
put the link in,
Mhm.
Let's see.
You can visit it online.
Yeah, they can go.
There you go.
Here's there we go. So stressors, where's the link? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yes, it
that's what
was
I saw.
alzheimers.gov. And so y'all can go to this. That should be an active link in the chat that you can click on. Yes, it
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And then that way you can look at, you can go to the website, look at what I've been showing y'all as well as other things that are there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, there's there's like planning for the future, tips for caregivers.
Mhm.
Something that I've started doing when I run into somebody that's caregiving um,
Mhm.
for a parent
Mhm.
um, or a family member is make time for you,
Mhm.
make time for yourself, make sure that
Mhm.
that um that you take time off, you have somebody to spell you,
Right.
so that even if it's just go sit in your car in the parking lot for half an
Mhm.
hour and not have to be around her, that and there were times when we would be doing that as well.
Mhm.
So it can be very difficult
Mhm.
trying to take care of someone who who's battling that, because most of the time they
Mhm.
don't realize that they're fighting you on it. Uh,
Right.
and I think that's what makes it so hard, especially
Mhm.
when it's your parent, because you look at your
Yeah.
parent as someone that's in
Mhm.
charge and control. They always took care of you, and now suddenly
Mhm.
they can't
Mhm.
brush their own teeth. They can't blow their
Right.
own nose, and
Mhm.
that can
That's a difficult situation.
it is.
Mm.
Okay, Rose. Well, the link that's right there that we've got on the bottom of the screen. Um, that's where I got the PDF from that I created. Was from an
Mhm.
article on that link. I just
Mhm.
moved it into a document so it was easier
Mhm.
to share it and show it. Um, so that way you could just go look it up online.
Mhm.
Maureen says that my stepmom thinks
Mhm.
my dad has dementia, and I'm concerned because they're taking care of my aunt too. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's more than
Mhm.
most people are able to deal with, is
Mhm.
two family members
Right.
that are like that. Um,
Mhm.
there are, I mean, I would check with your local hospitals to see if there are any special adult daycare centers that you
Yeah.
can bring your parents or
Yeah.
your aunt to just give them a couple of hours to hang with people their own age, as well as give you a couple of hours break. Um, we kind of found out about those kind of late in the game, um,
Mhm.
but a lot of them, uh, they will take Medicaid, Medicare.
Mhm.
If your parent or your relative is getting their Social Security and stuff.
Mhm.
There's usually not much left over afterwards because they pretty much
Mhm.
take all of it. But and
Mhm.
and for what's not covered, they will hook you up with Medicaid. Um,
Mhm.
that was a big help when we got her hooked up and put on Medicaid, and
Mhm.
because then we could start affording to buy all of her medicine every month.
Mhm.
Whereas
Mhm.
before it was like a trade off. I get
Right.
this one this month, I can't get that one. So next month
Right.
I'll get that one and not this one. That kind of thing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. A lot of good information coming up in the chat. Maureen says
I'm
the
seeing
VA
that.
has a support group,
Awesome.
which is good.
I see that. And T. Lynn's talking about, community centers,
Mhm.
especially check your Catholic churches. They are
Mhm.
really good about that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That those kind of services for people that can't afford to pay for it, especially
Mhm.
because you think a doctor's appointment is expensive. Try hiring a private nurse to come sit at your house all
Right.
day. It's it gives a whole new meaning to the word
Mhm.
expensive. Um, but if it's a veteran who has benefits, you can contact your local VA. That's another good source.
Mhm.
They can point you in the right direction of where to go. And I think I forgot to put the channel address. There was also a video that Isaac had sent me,
Mhm.
and it's
It's on
on
that
YouTube.
page. Mhm.
And oh, okay, so there's the YouTube link. You can and it's pretty good. It walks you through the different steps
Mm.
to help you
Mhm.
figure out how to manage it. Um, Dementia is so hard because they may not be physically incapacitated.
Mhm.
And so now you're dealing with a grown adult who wants to go out and do things that
Mhm.
doesn't have the ability to go out and do those things. And so,
Mhm.
um, and invariably they want to do it the minute you get to sit down on the toilet and spend 10 minutes in the bathroom. That's when
Yeah.
everything happens. So,
Mhm.
but
Right.
Isaac sent me, there's a lot of good, excuse me, there's a lot of good information you can get from the website here.
Mhm.
And if you know somebody who's dealing with a parent or an aunt and uncle, grandparent, whatever that's like this, emphasize to them the importance of getting hooked up to some kind of
Mhm.
a support group to help them through
Mhm.
it that will have access to
Mhm.
the programs that may be available in that area to help out.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Not just with the care of the parent or the family member, but for other things like just having somebody bring dinner every day.
Mhm.
Because when you're taking care of someone like that, it's difficult to try to
Mhm.
cook a meal, because
Right.
you're constantly having to stop what you're doing to go deal with what's going on with them. Hi, hugger.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it can be really difficult, but I think
Mhm.
the hardest thing for me was when she didn't know who I was anymore.
Mhm.
And that's just devastating.
Mhm.
It's the same when you're a parent and the first time your kid looks at you in anger and says, I hate you. You know they don't mean it, but oh
Right.
my God, stab me through the heart. That's how you feel.
Right.
Um,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of the same way, but in reverse. Uh,
Right.
and just knowing how to deal with the emotional trauma that you're going through dealing with this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And most people don't have the knowledge or the training in how to deal with this.
That's true.
And so they try to deal with it on their own, and sometimes they're making it worse because they're
Uh-huh.
doing all the wrong things. I mean, we went down
Right.
that road for a while too,
Mhm.
before it kind of slapped us in the face. Okay, no, wait, this isn't
Mhm.
working. We've got to make some changes. Um,
Mhm.
but and yeah, Joyce, I'm telling you, Catholic services, Catholic charities. I'm not a Catholic. I used to be
Mhm.
one, but I'm not anymore. But they usually offer some really, really fabulous public service stuff especially for those that need medical care, dental care, mental
Mhm.
health care.
Mhm.
You can call your local parish church to find out where can I
Mhm.
get help with this. And if they're not doing something, they will plug you in to whoever is doing something.
Mhm.
So it makes it a little easier. Because like I said, it can be very isolating.
Mhm.
Senior sitters, yes, T. Lynn, that's another good one. Centers do offer a lot of programs,
Mhm.
like day programs where you can bring your parent, drop them off, and then go pick them up at the end of the day when you get off work, or they'll
Yeah.
come pick them up and drop them off. It just depends.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but there are people in government agencies out there that do actually care about
Yeah.
what's happening, and they're
Yeah.
trying their best,
Mhm.
which is brings home the importance of voting in November because if we continue to vote in people that want to take all this stuff away from everyone,
Right.
then what are we supposed to do if the local you know food bank or the local community medical center for
Mhm.
people that don't have insurance or money, that kind of thing. It all takes
Mhm.
money to run that. And what do you do
Yeah.
if you don't have that access, or
Yeah.
if they shut down those programs
Yeah.
because of your state government, the way your state government works, and God forbid the federal government doing it. Um,
Right.
Reagan
Oh,
did
that would
that
be.
back in the 80s. He shut down all the mental health facilities, or a good portion of them. And that's when
Mhm.
you start getting all these crazy ass people living on the streets. They had nowhere to go. They weren't taking their medicine because A, they couldn't afford it, and B, they weren't well enough to know when to take their medicine.
Right. Right.
And so you had a lot of mentally ill people
Mhm.
that wound up in a prison because they didn't know how to deal with the world,
Mhm.
as we know it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, hugger. So you get it. It's not. It's such a layered. It's not like just caring for somebody because they broke
Mhm.
their legs or they got in an accident and they're going to be bedridden for a couple of months or something. Um, I think what's worse about dementia and Alzheimer's is that it steals your memories and it
Mhm.
steals the ability for you to do things that you just naturally do. It's
Mhm.
not like it makes you
Mhm.
forget how to do the really weird crap that you don't do anymore,
Right.
but go to the bathroom, blow your nose, brush your hair. Yeah, no, those
Right.
skills are out the window.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, dry brushing a 70-something-year-old woman's teeth when she thinks you're trying to gag her to death, and so she fights you when you're
Mhm.
trying to brush her teeth. Yes,
Right.
it's
Right.
just a toothbrush, mom. Um, but yeah,
Right.
it can be very very depressing for the caregiver because one, you're seeing
Mhm.
your parent or relative
Mhm.
uh, literally deteriorate in front of your eyes. I think that's the
Mhm.
scariest part, is you
Right.
can visibly track it. They went from here to here this week, and then they went
Mhm.
down to this level 2 weeks later, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Um,
Right.
and that can be really difficult to deal with, especially if you have a spouse or if you have children or if you're
Mhm.
working a full-time outside job that's not homemaker. Um,
Right.
that just adds those stressors on
Mhm.
even more,
Mhm.
that can really really make it difficult to do the right thing, and
Yes.
real easy to
Mm-hmm.
bend the rules a little bit this
Mm-hmm.
time so I can walk
Mm-hmm.
away and don't have to deal with it, and they can do whatever they
Right.
want until they break
Mm-hmm.
a law or hurt somebody, and then now you
Mm-hmm.
got to go arrest their butts and put them in jails.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wouldn't it have been cheaper to just get the medical care from the get
Yes.
go? I mean,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
um, trying to get people to understand that concept is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if we all paid 5% more in taxes across the board,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, no matter your income level, you just paid 5%.
Mm-hmm.
I said everyone could have health care.
Mm-hmm.
We could have daycare, pre-K, Head Start, all that kind of stuff paid for.
Yeah.
Food banks would become obsolete because people would be eligible for SNAP benefits
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
can go to the store and buy their own groceries instead of having to go eat something standing on a street corner somewhere, which thank God those
Right.
people are there and they are feeding those people. But
Mm-hmm.
that can be hard too. Um, I'm going to shut up now. I feel like I've been talking too much.
No, no. I
I feel
think
like
I
I'm in a counseling
y-
session because Isaac keeps going, uh-huh.
no,
Mhm.
you're preaching to I was like, yeah, you're right. It sounds like that.
And
You're
like
preaching
the
to the choir.
standard counseling response is, and then what? Well, yeah, no, I think you did the right move there. Okay, And I'm like, okay, wait a minute.
You're preaching
Oh,
to the choir. One thing that I would add to that, what you're saying and what I was thinking about, Sharon, when you put a policy in place and it destroys part of society, that either means you did not know what you were doing or you knew exactly what you were doing. Because if you never correct it,
yeah.
you probably meant for it to happen. But
Or
Sharon, we
refuse to admit that it was a mistake.
well, this is the thing. It's not a mistake. It's like if you're pushing a policy and it continues to mess things up, that's what you meant. But Sharon, we got some of the smartest people in the world in this country. We can put a ship in the Persian Gulf and blow up a building in a foreign country. We can put a man on the moon, but we can't figure this stuff out. Yeah, we
Thank
must
you.
have the wrong people in the right. We have the right places, but we got the wrong people in those places. There's something
Right.
wrong with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where it becomes so important for everybody to vote,
Yeah,
to know who your candidates are and what their policies are,
right.
and then hold
Hmm.
them accountable if they do
Hmm.
get put in office. Um,
And you know, one thing too, Sharon, I want to say, and I know a lot of people like this. They talk about the evil people who uh, have medical abortions and they want stricter rules and they want the religion in the government. If we do that, we're headed down the road of Iran, where women can get killed for not wearing their hijab properly. That's
right.
what it's going to turn into. And that has nothing to do with their religion. It's about the rich people controlling all of the other people in the country. That's all it's about.
Exactly.
Well, let me shut
Exactly.
up. Let me stop. I'm saying too much.
Don't get me on that roll. I'll be doing a
Right.
Harris
Yeah. Yeah.
Walls
Yeah.
PR
Yeah. Yeah.
campaign here.
Let me
Um,
stop.
but that's why I think back to the 80s when Reagan was elected. And what did
Yeah.
he do? He shut down all the mental health institutions, or
Hmm.
90% of them.
Well,
And
who
all
thought
of
that
these
was a good
people,
idea? Yeah.
thank you, you know.
Hmm.
And suddenly you had these people roaming the streets,
Right.
i- i- you know,
But
hurting
that was the
people,
whole
not intentionally, but because they didn't understand what was going on. They
that was
didn't take
all a
their
part of it.
medications. So, yeah.
That was all a part of it. Why would
Yeah.
you put people like that on the street? I mean, like he would have been smart enough to know that this is going to cause confusion, but you do it anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hmm.
you know, just like wanting to take away, programs that feed kids a hot meal every day.
Yeah.
I mean, my state has been doing that for the last
Mhm. Mhm.
5, 6 years. We had that special school lunch program, and then
Right.
Biden made it permanent. What does our
Right.
new governor do? Oh no, that's a step too far. We can't do that.
We can't do
That's
that.
communism.
Mhm.
It's like, no, that's feeding kids.
Mhm.
It's feeding hungry kids. Um,
Right.
it's got nothing to do with any ism.
Right.
That may be racism and elitism.
Mhm.
It's only two isms I can think of that goes with.
I'm thinking it's more elitism.
Well, it also
It's
depends on
well, it's
what
divide and
part of
conquer.
town. Yeah.
It's divide and
About-
conquer.
Well, and you've had that group of people
Mhm.
that do these kind of things who
Mhm.
have very carefully and very successfully
Mhm.
made a point of telling poor people, well, you may be poor, but at least you're not black or Hispanic
Right.
or from
Right.
another country. Like we didn't all come from another country.
Right.
Somewhere down the line, we're all
Look at
immigrants.
look at the
Um,
comments, Sherry. Look at the comments. Look at the last comment.
you're right, Maureen, he is. And that's where voting is so important. Because when we had
Yeah.
that governor's election,
Mhm.
nobody showed up to vote.
Uh-huh.
We had the worst turnout in decades, and they
Uh-huh.
held it on a Saturday so more people could go.
Wow.
And folks didn't show up to vote.
Wow.
Their side did. Our side
Mhm.
did. And
We
now we
always play a
have a
ro
MAGA House, a MAGA Senate, and a MAGA governor.
we all play a role in our own demise,
That's it.
consciously or unconsciously.
I have a cousin who's very, very, very conservative, but he's still one step away from MAGA. At least he's
Right.
not there yet. Whenever he calls me or comes by and he starts bitching about things that they
Uh-huh.
do and what, and I'm like, well, who did you vote for?
Right.
Put da 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 in office. I said, then why are you bitching? You got
Right.
exactly what he told me he was going to do.
They don't connect
Did
that. They don't
exactly
connect it.
what he said he was going to do.
Mhm.
He did that to me when he called me up one day freaking out because they're going to take away our Social Security. And I went, yeah. And he's like,
Yeah.
why aren't you freaking out about it? I said, Mark, they've been telling us they were going to do that for 50 damn years. Why haven't you been listening? Hello? I mean,
Right.
that's what
Yeah,
blows
wake
my
up.
mind is they literally tell y'all what they're going to do.
And then they do it and you're
Get freaked
surprised.
out when they do it. It's like, well, hello?
Well, well, Gary, a lot of people who go along with it, they think they're special and it's not gonna happen to them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The same with the religion aspect. Any
Mhm.
religion getting put into the government, and the ones that push that in, it's because of the opinion, well, it
Mhm.
won't happen to us because we're the special people,
Uh-huh.
until they're knocking on your door saying, why aren't you wearing that hijab, or why aren't you
Right.
showing
Right.
up and praying on X day at X time every week, or
Yeah.
why aren't yeah, uh-huh. Talk to the
Mhm.
Germans about that. Let them tell you what that was like.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like me, Isaac and I both grew up in the deep south.
Mhm.
We've seen some pretty horrific things that people can do to each other down here, all because of the
Yeah.
color of their skin. And
Yeah.
it's mind-blowing to me how people can get that bent out of shape over someone because their skin may be darker or
Mhm.
redder or yellower or
Mm-hmm.
too white, or and just, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it, yeah, I don't know. It blows my mind. But yeah, my
But
governor is a horse's ass. You got that right.
think about it, Sherry. The really the people in America, we have had so much freedom that we can choose
To
imprisonment.
it,
And that's what they're doing.
yes,
That's what
I
they're doing.
like that. I like that. Yes, we've
Hmm.
had so
That's
much
what,
freedom that we can choose our own um imprisonment.
and that's what they're doing.
I'm gonna have to make a meme out of that. Okay, that's too good.
That's
Um,
what we're doing. It's like, because you're gonna hurt them, so I'm gonna choose that. And you don't
yeah.
realize that you're gonna be them
Well, it's like
tomorrow.
telling poor white people with no education living in a rundown shack, well, hey, at least you're not black.
Right.
They got it worse because they're born a
Hmm.
different color.
Hmm.
What the hell? You're both poor.
Right.
You're both living in a rundown shack. You both don't
Right.
have health care or money to buy food or
Right.
anything else.
Hmm.
How is that any different than the other person?
Right.
Makes no sense. Um,
People don't see that.
no, they don't. And some people refuse to see it.
Hmm.
They refuse to see it. They
Hmm.
turn their head away from it. No, that's
Hmm.
not happening. And they do that
Hmm.
until it's knocking on their door.
Right.
And
Right.
talk to the Germans about that, those, especially those
Hmm.
that still remember,
Right.
that are old, we're losing them too fast now, those that remember what actually happened. But
Yeah.
and it wasn't just in Germany. God, it's happened over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Venezuela used to be a democracy, a
Yep.
thriving democracy with excellent places to go and vacation and
Uh-huh.
universities and students and everything. And what happened? They voted away or they allowed a dictator to come in and take over.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll let
But
him
you know
come
what?
in so he can clean up some of this mess that we don't really like. And then what? He's going to go away? I don't think so.
Uh-uh.
Look what Castro did.
Yeah.
Cuba was a free society,
Hmm.
and other countries. I mean, um, it's it's truly heartbreaking to
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
it happening. Um, and yeah, we kind of both went off on a rant and kind of got off kilter. But this kind of I think goes hand in glove as far as what it is if you don't have the information to know the right decisions to make, you're going to
That's
make
it.
bad decisions. And
Oh, let me
go.
say this, you before we stop. Before we stop on our rant. I just thought about it. And I what the uh Trump is doing, and the conservative commentators on like Fox and YouTube, when they're saying these things about people, it's there's theory in sociology called learning theory. But there's also a paper, and I tried to find the book, I don't even have it. And I can't find it on the internet. It's called Paranoia and Exclusion, which means that they say something about somebody. It's gossip. It's gossip. I say something about
Like what
somebody,
they're
then
doing with the Haitians right now in Ohio.
right. And people start looking for it. That's labeling theory. It's
Yeah.
and 45 does it well, and I don't think he realizes the study that's behind it. I think somebody just told him to do it. I don't
Yeah.
think
I
he
think it was his father that told him to do it. That's where he learned a
uh-huh.
lot of that
Uh-huh.
from. because his
Uh-huh.
daddy was a right-wing bigot and
Yeah.
neo-Nazi
It's called
loving jackass.
it's
But
called labeling theory.
that's what they did with the Haitians. Oh, they're stealing and eating your pets.
Hmm. I like what
All the
Maureen
officials
said.
in Ohio who are Republican, by the way,
Hmm.
are like, that's not happening. That's and
Right.
the VP running with him, Vance,
Hmm.
admitted to CNN on air live
Hmm.
that he made up the story
Hmm.
to get people to pay attention.
Hmm.
I nearly fell out of my chair when I saw that. And it
Right.
just like went right over people's heads. It was like, he just told us he made it up. I mean, at least the
Uh,
journalist caught it and said, wait a minute, you said you made up that story?
hmm.
There
Yeah,
was
but
there was
it's labeling theory. Once people put it out there and they run with it, it's like there's no looking back. Nobody can take it back from them. They believe it.
right. It's like George W. Bush said, if you tell a lie often enough, everybody accepts it as the truth.
Labeling theory.
Yeah,
It's a theory. It's been written
yeah,
about, it's been studied.
absolutely. Um,
Hmm.
Maureen, yeah, I've heard people called cracker before, and it just
Hmm.
I didn't know that that's what it referred to, but I can remember people saying it when I was a kid
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
other people getting very offended by it. I didn't understand why, because
Me either.
we
That's new to
have
me.
the influx of Irish where I grew up that other
Right.
areas did. You
Right.
know, we mostly what we had were, I mean, growing up, it was more just a black white thing
Hmm.
than anything else.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, I guess Hispanic people and whatnot got picked on a lot back then, but not to the
Hmm.
extent they are now, because they were considered a positive force as migrant workers. They would cross the border, come in, work for the seasons to harvest and all that stuff,
Hmm.
and then they leave and go back to their country.
Hmm.
No harm, no foul. And then they come back the next season. It was just back and forth, and
Hmm.
both sides profited from it. Farmers profited from it, and the workers
Hmm.
profited from
Right.
it. And it wasn't until they quit making it illegal for the employer to hire an illegal, I hate that term,
Hmm.
alien. Instead, it was going to be the immigrant person's fault.
Hmm.
Because it used to be, if someone hired someone that was not supposed to be here, they were the ones that got in trouble and paid big fines and maybe went to jail,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
the other way around.
Hmm.
And that's not to say that there wasn't a lot of abuse. There was.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's probably one of the saddest things um, about the human race is our ability and sometimes our need to be so cruel to one another.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's like, really? Why?
Yeah.
I don't, again, I don't understand why you have to make this person smaller than you in order to feel better about yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me. But then
Some people do
my
that.
mother was the black sheep of the family because she was the liberal,
Hmm.
She was the one out marching and dragging my ass along with her. Yes.
Hmm.
So, and it's like, so stuff I did as a kid, it's like, I got to do this shit again. I did this once already,
Right.
and now I got to do it again. It
Hmm.
makes no sense.
It
Um,
doesn't.
anyway, sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to turn this into a political rant, but I guess Isaac and I both just had it bottled up inside of us and needed to get it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sherry,
it
I
can
have
get
family
it
members
can get
sending
pretty
me
tough down
crazy
here
stuff.
sometimes.
It does. I have family members sending me crazy stuff. It's like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah,
I don't want to see it.
I know. Years ago, probably 35 years ago, I worked at the plasma center at the time. I was
Mhm.
checked people in,
Mhm.
and there was a couple of ladies that worked there with us in the reception area who were African American. And when one particular young man would come in to donate, they would always, when he was not, it's like once they processed him and got him sent on to the next stage, they would talk so disparagingly of him. But they would always refer to him as that bright boy.
Mhm.
And I was like, one day it just finally got to me, and I'm like, I don't understand why you're putting him down because he's so smart. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you keep calling him bright. If he's that smart, why are you making fun of him? And they both just gave me this look. A third person walked up and said, no, that's not what that means.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, since when?
Yeah, I know
Again,
what that means.
yeah, most African Americans do know what that means. Is a lot of us white people that are dumb as shits and don't know what it means. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why are you making fun because he's smart? No, bright meant he wasn't dark enough.
Right.
He was
Too
too
light.
light skinned, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's one of the biggest things that has always blown my mind is
Mhm.
people of the same race, whether if it's white, black, Hispanic, whatever, who will disparage others of their same race
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're too dark, too light, too this, too
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
They're not exactly in that stereotypical mold
Right. Mhm.
that society has said that particular segment of people are.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
blows my mind. It's like, okay, so
Yeah,
prejudice goes in either direction.
it does.
It really does. And
And we should practice not disparaging anyone, accept kindness from where it comes, and treat
yeah,
everyone with kindness.
and to understand why we treat people that way.
Mhm.
And it goes back to treating a family member who's ill that needs our help to take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of people sitting in a nursing home
Mhm.
that's living on state funds who has family that never come to see them
Mhm.
ever.
Mhm.
They never get visited. And I used
Right.
years ago before I had surgery and lost my voice. I used to be part of
Mhm.
the singing group. We used to go to
Mm.
nursing homes to go sing.
Really?
And one year we went through, like at Christmas time, we were doing Christmas stories. And one of the girls had just had a baby, and
Mhm.
she would bring the baby with her. And those old people would light up like Christmas trees when we would
Mhm.
bring that baby inside and
Mhm.
let them hold her. And they would line up so they could all sit for 5 minutes and hold the baby
Really?
because they didn't get that from their family. They either had no family or their families didn't give a crap and didn't come see them.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
We would bring our kids with us, our older kid. I mean, Lewis was a teenager, um,
Mhm.
and they would walk around and just hug them. That's all. They just, like they were hugging their own grandparents, and that's all those
Mm.
people wanted was somebody just come, a kid to come hug them. That there's nothing wrong with them
Mhm.
because they didn't get that from their own family,
Mhm.
and that always stuck with me. That
Yeah.
it's all in how we treat people, and
Right. Right.
and you shouldn't be treated well only because you have money. Bye, baby. Have a good evening as he leaves for work.
Okay.
And so, well, thank y'all for letting us rant.
Yes.
I
Yes. We
apologize.
we went
I
off on the
actually
deep
had a
tangent.
question that Mary asked, and I did start and I forgot about it, Mary. I apologize.
Mhm.
That let's ask the pendulum.
Okay.
Okay. Will Mary's son get a job in 2024? Yes. Will Mary's son find his own place to live in 2024? Yes. Okay. The pendulum says yes to both questions.
Good. Good.
So I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't mean to forget about you. We kind of got off on that rant. I just went right out my brain. Um, um, it's the same thing. Yeah. It's and
Oh.
you go to these nursing homes and you'd see these old people just dumped there. Their
Mhm.
families never came to see them, never sent them anything, never bought them
Mhm.
anything personally. The
Mhm.
staff and whatnot would be the ones that would buy them
Mhm.
little gifts,
Mhm.
for birthdays and Christmas, and
Yeah. Mhm.
help provide for the things that they needed. And it,
Mhm.
hi, J Cat lady. Yeah, we started out talking about dementia, and then something triggered me and Isaac, and we kind of went off the beaten path and into a rant. So,
Yeah.
um,
You came in on the end, you wouldn't know it was about dementia.
oh my goodness.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, but this show
yeah,
has been
Maureen, you're
all
right.
about dementia.
The term cracker was also used to separate slaves and sharecroppers to make them
Mhm.
hate each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all part of naming. That's why 45 name calls,
Yeah.
because
Labeling theory.
he calls people names to
Mhm.
make them other. That's what Hitler
Mhm.
did. That's what Mussolini
Mhm.
did. That's what Pol Pot did.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
that's what all dictators do. They have to have an other to subjugate to get
Mhm.
everybody behind
Mhm.
them. And I stop it. Yeah, Maureen, I would love to see $4 billion go to healthcare and services.
Yeah.
You know what? Our Pentagon budget is how many trillions with a T of
Mhm.
dollars for things that we don't ever need and don't use.
Mhm.
We spend more money than the top, what is it, 25, 30
Mhm.
countries in the
Mhm.
world
Mhm.
combined.
Mhm.
We spend more money on our military than that, or not even on our military, just on the Pentagon.
Yeah.
The men and women on the front lines aren't seeing that money. Half of them are on food stamps because they
Yeah.
can't afford to feed their kids. And I know several in that position.
Mhm.
But just think, if you just took 1 trillion out of the Pentagon budget, what is it going to hurt? What's not going to get accomplished to keep us safe that the other trillions won't cover? And then put that to Medicare for all, universal health care, universal dental care, eyeglasses care, child care. You know, you could do all of those things with that kind of money if you put that kind of money in the budget every year that you do in the Pentagon. What are they going to do with it? Whose pocket is that money going in? Because they're not giving it to the military. So,
Well, the real reason behind why there's so much poverty in the United States is we're
because of
capitalists.
greed.
And you're not supposed to give people money in a capitalistic society. You spend it
Yeah.
on everything else but the people. And that's why we need to vote. And because everything changes over time, a capitalistic society, the way it was working, it worked. but it's changing now.
There's
And
a form of it that is healthy and works,
uh-huh.
but it has to be held in check
Right.
so that you don't have Jeff Bezos and Elon Musks of the world
Mhm.
who own every freaking thing in sight.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, if you
Well,
wanna buy anything, what do? You gotta go to Amazon. I
what
mean,
you will have
Walmart.
people like that, but in a capitalistic society, people say, "Well, you're spending money on this. Why don't you buy lunches for children?" The capitalist says, "We don't do that. We're not
Yeah,
supposed to give people money because in a capitalistic society, you're supposed to have poor people." And that's why they call it socialism if you try to help anybody.
yeah.
But the thing about it is, it's it's going to work against us in the long run if people are not treated with decency. That's basically what it is. It,
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Um,
expanding, we're changing, and the system needs to change.
oh, big time.
We're doing it again, Sharon.
Big time. Yeah, I know. We're delving off into the netherworld. Um,
Yeah.
as I'm sitting there scrolling through, God, y'all were having some great conversations in here that I missed because I was on a rant. I apologize. Um, so what do y'all want to talk about next week or next time? When's next
Yeah.
time? When do we come back? We come back
When is
October
it?
13th.
Okay.
October, yeah. Yeah, second Sunday, October 13th and 27th. That's when we come back.
Okay.
So what y'all want to talk about? Hi, bright shiny Ray.
Yeah.
You missed all the
Any
fun.
ideas, y'all?
Uh,
Oh, the holiday blues. Okay. That's I like
okay.
that.
Well,
I
we
like
usually
that.
do a holiday stressor show.
We do.
We've done that for the last, what, 2, 3 years in a row, Isaac, you and me. That's kind of what got us
Yep,
started on
we have.
this.
We have.
And
Do we want to do it early?
yeah, well, we could do it twice. We could do it early and do it again a little closer to the holidays.
Let's do that because that'll
All right.
get people a head start on taking care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Uh,
Maureen.
absolutely, Maureen. Okay, ding, ding, ding. You won the prize today. I don't know what the prize is, but we'll think of something. Okay, holiday blues. I like that
I do too.
because it is like the blues. Sometimes you
Hmm.
get really depressed. Um, oh, T. Lynn's got another good topic
Hmm.
we could cover at a later date. How to vet
Okay.
doctors for experience when looking to change
Hmm.
providers.
Hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. How to vet doctors when looking to change providers. Yeah, Isaac and I kind of went through the list we made up back in January. Uh, well, Bright Shiny Way, we started out really good. And about three-quarters of the way through, we both got triggered and went off on a political rant. For that, we
We're
apologize, but
triggered.
it needed to be said, I guess. And don't forget, y'all,
Yeah.
next Saturday on the 28th, is it? Yeah, the 28th is the second psychathon, but it's only going to be from like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Central Time. So it's only going to be like not a full 24 hours. Thank God. I don't think I could
Hmm.
do another 24 hours because I did backstage for most of it, keeping up with the questions and shuffling people in and out and stuff. And it was like, I can't do another 24 hours. I'm not 20 anymore. I can't do that. um, yeah, if y'all have any ideas on stuff you want us to cover, oh, Bright Shiny Ray said, "Oh, so then the interesting stuff happened." I love politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, so if y'all get any ideas of topics you would like us to cover from a mental health wellness point of view,
Yeah.
try to keep us in the lane, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm about to come on like on one of my Monday nights when I do Draining the Swamp. That's nothing but politics.
Okay.
Uh, um, just shoot me a message, an email, whatever. DM me, make a comment. I try to read all the comments. Sometimes I get a little behind, but you do better if you just email me. My email's on my community, my about section. You can click on my page. It'll
Okay.
give you more info. Just think swamp, SWAMP, voices, all one word, at gmail.com.
Hmm.
That's the address I use for the channel.
Okay.
A lot of you already know my personal email address, and,
Hmm.
and I still use it a lot too. And
Okay.
that's just my name at Gmail. So,
Hmm.
but it was fun, Maureen. It was also exhausting. I think I went to bed like around 4 a.m. and I slept for a couple of hours and I was back up at it again. And then when it was all over with, I slept for like a day and a half. First time I slept the night through, and I can't remember when. That's how tired I was. But it was fun. So, well, thank y'all for coming. God, we've had y'all for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Usually we don't run that long. So, and I know Isaac's got to go finish his porch, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to go
I,
finish
I'm
my
just
laundry.
I'm just looking and thinking of what to do next.
There you go. There you go. All right, y'all. Well, we got next time will be holiday blues, and then y'all be thinking up some topics you want us to talk about. And, we come on next time on what date did I say? The 13th of October.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, give us some more ideas of what you want us to cover. Um, and hi, Eileen. Yes, dementia is very hard. Go back
Hmm.
and watch the beginning before we got off on a rant. We
Yes.
talked all about dementia.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, we both stepped off the track and
Yes.
went down the rabbit hole. So y'all
We
have a
did.
great week. Have a great week. And I'll see y'all tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central for Draining the Swamp. Um, Arthur will not be there. He's obligated elsewhere. Mel, I don't believe Mel's going to show up because he's got the Chicago event next weekend
Hmm.
that he's doing. So he's pretty tied up. But I got Angela Cardamancy Mesquite's going to come on, and I might be able to twist Isaac's arm and get him to come on too. And and then of course Sisters on Wednesday, Golden Girls on Thursday, and the
Wow.
Psychathon on Saturday. So
Wow.
um, and then the slumber party Saturday night at 11 p.m. So I love that one. That's my fun one. Um,
Okay.
that's an anything goes. You never know what the hell's going to happen on Saturday night. It's all of us people who can't sleep, and we just get on there and do whatever. Um, it's fun. So yes, you're doing it next weekend on the 28th, Karen. That's when the next psychathon is. So it ought to be fun. And yeah, y'all seem to really like the slumber party. I'm glad. You have to wear PJs. So that's part of the thing. Um, except I usually forget. Oh, the world's worst. I forget to go put my PJs on. I'm usually busy doing stuff. All right, I'm going to say goodbye now and quit talking. Goodbye now.